I'm honored to be able to join you today for the opening of the Colombia Investment Summit. I want to thank President Duque and the many members of the Colombian government who are participating. And I thank Flavia Santoro and her team at ProColombia for inviting me to be a part of the summit. With the challenges presented by both the COVID-19 pandemic and the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, this event is coming at a very important time. I regret very much the impact COVID has had on Colombia and its neighbors throughout Latin America. And my heart's with all the people who have been affected, both directly and indirectly. I am very grateful to President Duque and the people of Colombia in the midst of all this for continuing to support your Venezuelan neighbors. It's no secret that I have had a love affair with Colombia that goes back well before I ever visited. And I think it began when I was a young law student and I first read 100 Years of Solitude. I was so captivated that I read it right through my professor's lecture on tax law. I could get a better grade on Marquez's novels than on American tax law. Later, my life was deeply enriched by the friendship I developed with Gabo and the many partners I've worked with in Colombia, especially by the simple encounters I've had over the years with Colombian citizens who've persevered, walked a long road to peace and prosperity because they believe their children's future is worth it. When I was president, I worked hard to advance the stability and security of Colombia. Through Plan Colombia, I believed then, I believe now, that a strong Colombia is good for America and the world. I tried to be a friend and partner to the Colombian people by promoting investment and economic development so that the conditions would be right for peace. And after I left office and set up the Clinton Foundation, I was proud to work for many years with Colombian farmers, fishermen, women entrepreneurs, and others to strengthen their opportunities, strengthen their livelihoods, improve education and training through a program now called Accesso that is operated entirely by my friend Frank Giustra, who was our partner and now runs this program through his foundation. He's a fine man and he's done a very great thing to support the people of Venezuela. Today, I'm grateful that many Clinton Foundation partners are dedicated to serving the Venezuelan migrants and their host communities in Colombia, including Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen, which has been working to feed the migrants since February 2019, providing more than 1 million meals to date. Direct Relief, which along with local partners has delivered more than 7,000 pounds of medical supplies to 20 hospitals and health outposts along the border, and currently are preparing for a third shipment that will contain PPE and other COVID-related supplies and medicines for people across Colombia. And the Huaytay Foundation. The Huaytay Foundation is doing extraordinary work across the border to distribute meals, medical and hygiene supplies, and clean water to indigenous communities that face food and water insecurity alongside the threats of COVID-19. You know, since I left the White House, I've been to Colombia at least 10 times, I believe more, and saw what was happening in person. I'd like to be there now. The last time I was in Colombia was in 2017 for the Conference of the World's Coffee Growers in Medellin. If you had told me in the early 1990s when I became president that not long afterward I could go to a major international conference in Medellin, walking through and riding the escalators through Comuna 13 to talk with street artists or people running local coffee shops, or tourists from all over the world. I don't think even the biggest optimist would have believed that. I'm well aware that a lot of work needs to be done to complete the process of reconciliation and reintegration. The process has become much more complicated by the effects of the pandemic and the Venezuela crisis. But we cannot ever lose sight of the fact that Colombia belongs to its people again. So my message today is simple. For all of us around the world who care about Colombia and its future, we need to do everything we can to ensure that these two unprecedented crises don't erase the many years of hard-won progress the people of Colombia have achieved. We've come too far to allow that to happen. We owe them our support. And while the events of 2020 have upended all our lives, crippled national economies and the global economy, some things haven't changed, including the immense talent and creativity of Colombian people, or the country's diverse resources and immense natural beauty. Even in this difficult time, there are smart investments to be made that will expand opportunity, create jobs, develop infrastructure, combat climate change and resource depletion, and improve the social and economic balances between urban and rural areas. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago as part of my Presidential Center Speaker Series with my friend and friend of many of you, Luis Alberto Moreno, who's just finished his extraordinary tenure as president of the Inter-American Development Bank and was, as all of you know, the ambassador of Colombia to the United States when we completed Plan Colombia. One of his key messages, with which I wholeheartedly agree, is that one of the biggest opportunities all Latin American and Caribbean countries should seize now is attracting investment in renewable energy. And Colombia is especially well positioned to transition to clean, renewable, inclusive energy systems that will not only guard against climate change, but create a lot more jobs. The World Economic Forum has rated Colombia third in South America in its Energy Transition Index, with significant potential for developing solar, wind, and biomass sources. There are some estimates that biomass alone could supply 46% of the country's energy demands. I know President Duque and his government are deeply committed to expanding Colombia's renewable energy infrastructure. They've created strong incentives for investing in this space that have already resulted in a six-fold increase in the country's solar and wind capacity in just the last 2 years. Over the last decade, the costs of clean energy have dropped rapidly, and with the cost of new solar PV cells decreasing by about 70%, batteries by 40%, wind technology by 25%, electricity from renewables will soon be cheaper than fossil fuels, and we have barely scratched the surface of what's possible. The environmental, economic, and societal benefits of a clean energy transition are enormous. Already the renewable energy sector employs about 2 million people throughout Latin America, with significant room for growth, and we need all the new jobs we can get in the next couple of years. This is especially important as so much of Colombia's clean energy potential, especially for wind, is located near the Venezuelan border, where Colombians and Venezuelans alike need new jobs. Especially as we continue to see climate change affecting Latin America and the Caribbean, including the increasing scope and frequency of hurricanes and the unconscionable destruction of the rainforest in Brazil and Venezuela. We need to take action that will help to reduce carbon emissions and mitigate the worst effects of climate change. Colombia is poised to be a leader in this effort too. Similarly, another big opportunity to put people to work while strengthening the natural environment is agroforestry. Colombia's location makes it suitable for at least 10 forest species, and the government offers strong incentives for reforestation I hope many of you will take advantage of. Colombia has made a commitment for which we should all be grateful to plant 180 million trees by 2022 and already has planted more than 30 million of them. I've been banging on this agroforestry drum for more than 40 years now, ever since I was governor of Arkansas and became concerned about the destruction of the Amazon rainforest and decided to do what I could to promote replacement planting in the United States. We went from 48% forest cover when I was elected governor to 53% when I left office. The reason I mention that is because I know this is an area where you can make a big difference quickly and where jobs and investment opportunities can be created on a large scale. If you train people in a responsible and socially distant manner, tree planting is a good way to create employment in the areas of greatest needs among both Colombians and Venezuelans. And it will help to protect the most environmentally vulnerable areas from the effects of climate change, including droughts, floods, storms, and loss of biodiversity. So whether you represent a bilateral aid organization, an NGO, or a company, I urge you strongly to consider investing to help get this project done. Few other initiatives will achieve the same outsized impact. Colombia has the climate, farming, knowledge, and skills to grow almost any crops, including high-level exports like coffee, essential oils, and spices, which can support livelihoods and economic developments in many rural and often underserved communities. The approach will also help to increase food security in Colombia, especially for the most vulnerable, and lessen one of the main impacts COVID has had on communities around the world. Colombia also boasts a growing and innovative tech sector that prior to COVID, according to the International Data Corporation, had doubled its sales over just the last 7 years. Further, the government's demonstrated strong support for the tech sector, including the establishment of new governmental entities that offer grants, mentoring, networking, and other services to support innovation and entrepreneurship in this important field. We're all living through a period unlike any we've ever known, and we know that the human and economic tolls of the pandemic will have a long tail. But these crises also give us a chance to reimagine what our future will look like, what our societies, our economies, even how we relate to one another and to our environment will be like. The people of Colombia have worked very hard for a long time to beat the odds and build a shared future. We know there's still a lot of work to be done. But what a tragedy it would be if those of us who stood beside them let decades of progress be washed away in the storms of regional and global crises. Most of us tuning in today may not be able to resolve the political situation in Venezuela or develop a vaccine for the coronavirus. But we can all play a part in building an inclusive economy, one where people in all parts of the country have the chance to fulfill their potential and feel that tomorrow can be better than today. The future can be better for their children. The opportunities are there. We need to seize them. If we do, then Colombia, the Americas, and the entire world will be better for it. Thank you.